Mr. Clay?
Back to the concussion issue. No, earlier you mentioned even in the football where you said you have received calls or coaches call say, okay, the player was out of the game. With the concussion issue, let's just say we go and we say to the coach, that 12 has symptoms. That's a conversation between you and that coach. And then 12, comes back into the game. I'm still yet, after listening, a little concerned about, once again, you say the responsibility falls on the coach, true enough. Is there something that we as officials can do to document that we actually sent 12? Because what could conceivably, happen is the coach, Michael didn't tell me that he had symptoms. And there's no documentation.
Right. I think at that point, I know what a football crew is going to do. Maybe you can correct me here if I'm wrong. But a football crew is going to communicate to one another that they've sent a kid out. Okay. And at that point, I would walk over to Swamp and say, I just sent 12 out. He's out of here. Okay. And that, to me, is my verification that we've had that discussion. Okay. I was very much against having us track the paper, because the kid is staying with that coach. Hopefully, you're leaving when it's over with and you're going somewhere else. Hopefully you are. But the coach and the kid should be tied together, so the paper needs to be with them, I think.
Okay, well, I know we just in a so happy society, and
should we note it in the book?
I'm not saying not to do that, but I'm going to tell you, I don't know that's, I'm not going to require people to do that. I understand what you're saying, but I'm going to tell you, if I walk over to Swamp, or I walk over to, whoever your partner is, and I say, we did that, that's going to be good enough. For me.
It's possible that if you set somebody out on Tuesday night and somebody comes back in Friday night, the kid tries to get the game.
Yeah.
How are those people going to know?
Exactly. Exactly. If it's the official's responsibility, we would not know. And that's why all the responsibility stays with the coach, and that's why the paper has to stay with the coach also.
Hey, Mike, I have a question. How can an official qualify for not only the playoffs, but for the state tournament?
Just write me a check. It's pretty easy. What level you want to call it? $100 increments. Having done it one time now, I can tell you my viewpoint's probably a little bit different than it was when I stood here a year ago. The issue on how the playoffs are set up, and I'll just try to be as honest with you as I can. There are a couple of weeks in the playoffs in the state of Oklahoma. If you've got a whistle and you can show me that you passed the test and you got a car and can get there, you're going to get a game. Okay? Because those 2 weeks there where all the regionals and the areas are going on at the same time, that's a lot of folks. Coaches send in preferential lists. That's initially how those things get started. They get to sit and visit amongst themselves at the district level for B through 4A, and at the regional level at 5A and 6A. And they get to produce a list of 15 officials. Now at the coaches clinic this summer we had a discussion, the coaches and I did. That's probably incorrect. I had a discussion and they listened. What a lot of them decided to do was they didn't write down 15 officials. They only wrote down 6 or 7. And that really ties my hands on who I can get to send to their region or to their district, because what we've tried to do is we've tried to at least give them in that first round of competition people that they preferred to see. Of all the regionals and all the districts that were assigned last year and all the different classifications, I was able to do that except for 2 times. I had to send 2 guys to a place where they weren't preferred, and it was only because I was out of folks and nobody else was left on the list. I take those lists and I generate points. If you're number 1 on that list, you get 15 points. If you're number 2, you get 14, and so on. Sherry and I compile all those lists from across the state. Officials in each classification, A and B, 2A, 3A, and 4A, 5A, and 6A are the 3 groupings. Take all those points and add them up and take a look at where an official falls within that group. Kind of tells me what the coaches think. Our observers send in reports. Our commissioners send in reports. There are some guys throughout the state that I respect a great deal about what they think about basketball officiating, and they call and talk to me, and I write names down, and I take that into consideration. As we say at the district level, in the first round of regionals, I try to work off those preferred lists. When we get to the next level, then I try to fill in what I've got. We get to the state tournament, I try to look at all those things that I told you about right there. Now, having said all that, our problem in 5A and 6A is that our 3-man mechanic group gets whittled out pretty quickly during that time of the year because we've got other officials working other levels of play, the college and junior college and stuff like that. And so try to work with those other commissioners and other folks that do assigning. I know at one time we kind of had a policy that said if you can't work Thursday and Saturday or Friday and Saturday, you don't need to turn in. Let me tell you, that policy's over, okay? So if you've got one day in there where you think you can help me, turn in, all right? Because I can use you. And I don't mind doing that. I guess because here's one of the issues that never occurred to me at all till last year. I am so used to going to a game and I see Wayne and I see Swamp, and then I go to the next game and I see 2 other guys. Football officials don't work like that. Football officials want to be with their group of 5 guys as much as possible. And it's good for them to do that because that's the way they're trained, that's the way it works. Basketball officials aren't trained like that. We're trained to whoever shows up. The mechanics are so standard, we can all adjust and adapt and do what we need to do. So I don't have a problem with sending you somewhere on Thursday night and it's 2 of us and then we've got the same thing on Saturday night, but I can't be there. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. Coaches might, I guess. But if they've told me in no uncertain terms, they don't want to whittle the pool down based on people only being available for 1 of the 2 nights. So we're going to try to do better with that, I hope. So I probably didn't answer your question, Sarge, as good as I should, but here's the other part, and I know this is the frustration part of that. If you're asking me tonight, can you give me the objective way that you assign all the officials? Well, it's not exactly an objective assignment. There is some subjectivity in there because I'm not going off of just what the coaches are going to tell me and the scores that I have. One of the things we did in football this year is we allowed the football officials to they're going to take a crew test where they can generate points towards their scores that have nothing to do with the coaches. We're going to let them participate in a mentorship program which generates points towards their playoff assignments, has nothing to do with the coaches. If those things work out pretty good in football, then we're going to probably look at something like that in basketball. Because I know as a basketball official, I would hate to think that the only guy that ever determines whether I get to work in the playoffs is some coach. He doesn't even know the mechanics. Oh, I promise you he doesn't. I'll go more than promise you. I'll swear to you he doesn't know the mechanics. So the more things we can do that officials generate their data for that, I think the better off we're going to be. It is subjective, though, and I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's not. When we get to the end, and we've got the big games coming up, and I got to tell you this, I got to feel comfortable with those people that are on the floor. I really do. And I'm not going to put somebody on the floor I'm not comfortable with. I just can't do that. I won't do that.
Mike, I think we all know the difference between east side and west side officials. We're probably always going to go listen more on this side than they do. We can't change that. But is the office doing something to get more of you? I guess, bookwork stuff, the coaches, meeting, players meeting, same on both sides. Coaching box, same on both sides. Uniforms, where that's all being addressed, so when east side teams come down here for tournaments and see west side officials, or, when we get to playoffs, there's not this, we didn't do this last week, or haven't done that all year, or it's not the way we do things.
That's a great question. I mean, I wish I could tell you that we're doing a whole bunch of stuff to fix that, but we're probably not. As much as me going and talking to them and talking to the officials on the other side to try to make sure, and the basketball notes that come out each week, or try to come out each week, about pregame and things that we need to be sure that we're doing. I guess my concern there is that I would be greatly alarmed that we would think there would be two sets of rules. I mean, I don't know that the Federation has east side, west side rules. I haven't found them yet. So if you're asking me, am I aware of it? Yes. If you're asking, am I trying to do something about it? Yes. Do I have a specific plan about that? No.